All right. Welcome. And I think my audio should be good, like solid now. But welcome guys. Welcome back to another TrinFx stream. I'm just gonna dive real quick into it with the upcoming markets, what we have coming up. Some expectancy, some trade setups that we could get right now. Looking into today. I see that today, this morning earlier at 2 a.m. we had retail sale news, right? So was expecting this to come out better than the previous, and it even came out better than consensus for the GBP. And I just want to take a quick look at the movement that was made by the pound, right? So right, it's currently 5, so 5, 4, 3, 2. You see that the pound actually went up a little bit and then reversed, right, on like GBP CAD, GPCHF here. This was a trade idea that I did have. I ended up not taking it. And this is what we had for GPJPY. A combination of two. You can see it have yen weakness taking place here. You can see that, right? And not really the GBP strength itself, right? That did help contribute to the overall move to the upside, that swing to the upside. But for whatever reason, we had some yen weakness. You can see that movement was nearly like 200 pips in just the span of like 3 hours, which is crazy here. For now, continuing forward, what I'd like to see is some pullback here on the yen. So making this the overall high that we have price reaching at, right? I do think we could see some rejections and continuations back downwards, basically covering this move here. Now, this is pretty a pretty strong bias to the downside, right? Because overall we had this move to the upside. Let's take a quick look as to what caused this move to the upside. Therefore, we could better inform ourselves our decision as to, okay, should we be taking this for a sell setup? All right, so we have inflation rate came out, all right, 1930. So this was around 770. We had inflation rate come out for the yen, and we can see that came out at 3.3%, right? Less than consensus. All right, so inflation is coming down. All right, core inflation is at 3.3% as well. All right, so this doesn't contribute to the overall move that we saw here, the swing to the downside, to the upside. All right, so let's take a look at maybe from one of the analysts, and then let's see what they have anything to say. All right. All right, so you have here the Japan 10-year yields fall to 2-week lows at BOJ hope squandered once again. All right, so it's up to leaving their policy unchanged next week. All right, so we do have some yen news coming into next week, and because there's rumors that the policy is going to remain unchanged, we saw that sort of movement from price, right? All right, with the sources stating that the BOJ is not likely to introduce any changes to its yield curve control settings next week, adding that many policymakers see no imminent need to take fresh steps on the matter, with there being non-consensus as well as to when they may start to phase out stimulus measures. All right, so the central bank is expected to revise up its inflation forecast for this year, but to leave the forecast for the fiscal year 2024 and 2025 largely unchanged. It is also being reported that the BOJ would prefer to wait for more data before thinking about any possible changes to policy. All right, so this all has to do with leaving policy changes, leaving it unchanged and not revising their fiscal policy. So, because of that, and remember that the BOJ is deciding not to do anything in the next for the upcoming meeting. All right, we saw this move to the upside, and this is some of these things that you see in price action. Sometimes you have moves that you can't really explain from a technical aspect, so you got to look at the fundamentals and realize, okay, then why did price do this? Was this because of this, and so forth. So coming into this trade setup right here, I would say that this it still has a possibility of seeing price revise and come back down here. All right, we had this strong move to the upside. Again, we can note that all right, this move to the upside, this little 4 hour candle here, was because of the BOJ is going to leave their policies unchanged, right? As said by this report here, right? They're likely not to introduce any changes to their yield curve control settings next week. All right, so if you take a look at next week, all right, so we have a heavy week next week, right? In terms of news, we also have Fed interest rates on Wednesday, so that would be quite the ordeal. All right, so we have a pretty heavy news week next week. Coming to the yen, interest rates looking to remain the same. So you think about this, right? One thing to note here, since we already have the report that they're likely to leave it unchanged, all right, in terms of their anything that they're going to do to your yield curve settings and all of that. Since we have the likely factor that it's going to remain unchanged by this report, and we see this move to the upside here, right? Coming to the actual news when we have the BOJ interest rate decision, right? Once this comes out as expected, it's likely not to make a move to the downside, right? And in this case, it's likely not to make price just spike all the way up because it is expected. What would happen most likely is a correction of the move upwards, right? So we would see, all right, it spikes positive, right, or in favor of the yen if left unchanged, right? If the actual comes out as a consensus. And I'm saying this now, and we review this as the news do come out, but this is like one of the things that happens during those times. Hey guys, so just let me know if you hear me clearly. Thank you very much. Um, let me just pop out the chat here so that I'll be able to see you guys' comments and stuff. Right. So as far as I'm concerned, for the upcoming for the current price action and everything that we're seeing after this move upwards, we come into this significant level here. I do think overall we could see price push back down just because we have a weak GBP, all right, just in general. And given that the action or the movement of price being because of the rumor that they're going to leave their fiscal policies unchanged, right? We could see a correction of this move. This isn't a lasting move for all the way until then. So I do think that right into this area, if we could get this close, we could continue lower with price action kind of correcting this move. Maybe not all the way, but I would say that this would be a target level for me right here. So this would be a 1 to 3 around that, and then even lower, maybe we could get a full-on correction, but we're not guaranteed to see that today itself, right? Because it is Friday, so therefore the volume would be kind of low. But I would say that this is a trade setup that's ideal. The only way that I would take this to like continue upwards, all right, is if price closes above this zone here. If we get a close above, then I would say, all right, we could have enough momentum to continue pushing price higher for now, all right. But as far as I'm concerned and what I'm seeing, price action, we're just gonna continue downwards from here, correct that move from earlier. All right, so I'm gonna take this trade here. JPY. It's on the miners. GJ. Alright, so I'm gonna enter this here and just monitor the trade. Not too much, right? So a light risk. I'm using a relatively light risk here. And like I said, this will be the target area for me right here. Obviously, this is an early entry into the zone. So what I like to see for the possible continuations is on this 30-minute candle. If we could close bearish, that would be great. And on the next candle, we could see a continuation. Once we break out of this zone to the downside, right, we could get that continuation movement. So it's a matter of just waiting and seeing what price does. But like I said, it's very possible that we could break higher up, right? But given the fact that, alright, this move is allocated to price just they're speculating that the BOJ would have their monetary policies remained unchanged and all of that, right? We had this large move to the upside. We came into this significant level here, alright? At this point, we could see price turning around. Alright, nice. Nice. I'm glad that you guys could hear me clearly, and it's not a repeat of last time. Yeah, so no, we could see that. Alright, overall, pretty good numbers, right? Pretty good price action movement coming to the ending of the week, right? Anything is starting earlier during the course of the week. Everything was kind of haywire. It was way harder to navigate. And this is the thing, sometimes it's just about like having patience, and why some traders, right, most traders find it difficult sometimes to like maintain profitability, because you have these scenarios where price action may not play in your favor at one point, but then at some other point it turns around and it starts actually behaving and moving within like expectancy, right? And this is another trade that we have here within the VIP group. The last trade that we took, we actually had another trade, and let me just pull that up real quick. So let me just get into the VIP. Right, so this was the last trade that we took here. The other trade that we did have, the idea was a GP card, right? And this was GP card. Right, this was the GBP card here, sells, right? But looking at the price action, price was kind of pulling up. So before the market session gap, ended up closing this out and entered a new trade setup. And this was GJ as well. GJ pulled up, right? So this was the last trade that we entered, doing pretty nicely right now, because we will see if we get an actual full close above. And yeah, it's pretty nice thus far. And these were some other trade setups too. Price played out. I'm just gonna remove the drawings for this. DXY behaved within the expectancy as the see price pulled back, and we got that major pullback coming into this level here. So if we could target this level, this would be great, right? I think this will be great for continuing into next week, as overall very bearish on the dollar itself. We have that sort of recovery going, but if you take a look at some of the cross pairs, right? So let's take a look so you can get like a good example as to, okay, why. Now we see that the dollar on a lot of these cross pairs is just consolidating, price is cooling off, we have that pullback overall, and it's within a major uptrend, right? So for some of these charts, right, we see that the dollar had that pullback. Right, looking at the 4-hour, we can see, alright, major uptrend, price come back into this zone here, the 4-hour level for GBP USD. That's great. Euro USD price consolidating right into this level, but we had that pullback. This might be the most that we get, right? Maybe into this zone here. Price may pull back some more, but again, within this overall uptrend, 80 USD, more so on the choppy side just because of resentment and everything. So the price has been moving a little bit back and forth, but it has been a good pair, right? It has been a good pair. So in terms of 80 USD, I think more than likely we could see a continuation of the while, especially coming up with the fact that, all right, next week we do have And this is kind of like an early analysis on next week, right? Next week we do have the interest rate decision coming out on Wednesday, right? So expect an increase of 25 base points. So we could expect to see price rally some more on the dollar, especially since it's such a heavy news week next week. We have a lot of different factors to consider, right? So interest rate being one, we have the jobless claims and stuff to be being one as well, and we have a lot of interest rates for a lot of different economies, right? So pretty heavy news week. With that being said, I would say to just trade with caution when it comes to the US dollar. Trade with caution for sure. Alright, so dollar is pulling out a level. I mean, sorry, the price action is pulling out a level a little bit, right? So we'll see. Again, we need to be aware of the fact that, alright, overall, price pushed up pretty strong, right, into this level. Now, what happens during the New York session, or the change between the New York session open and the London session, right? That point as where both sessions are open, right? As volume comes into the market, right? So being aware of that, we can know that okay, even though that price action should fall from this level, because fundamentally it makes sense, psychologically it makes sense to see that, right? When volume hits into the market, you need to be aware of like the technical aspects, right? Because that could very well cause price to actually push higher and move out of this zone, right? Just because we had the volume to do so. Um, so yeah, you need to like some stuff you need to take into consideration. But for now, we'll see how this plays out. And coming to the candle close, we have 11 minutes remaining on this candle. If we could get a bearish close out outside, then sure, I'll just leave it. Let's do its thing. And we could possibly see a target right into this here, or even continue lower. Right, at that point, you just manage your risk, right? And if you're a 10 pip warrior, you could take your profits at 10 pips or so. All right. Is there anything that you guys are looking at? Let me know in the chat. What are some of the things that you're looking at? What are your expectations for next week when it comes to possible trade setups? What are some of the things that you're looking at? Let me know in the chat. What a time to be alive. So I'm gonna take a look at gold here. Right, so gold we had a bias for gold, right? The fact that if we had news come out as bearish for the dollar, we'll get a continuation from this level. But you can see that wasn't the case, right? So news came out a little bit better than expected, and you see price pulled back downwards. All right, so we saw the dollar kind of take in strength, and you come into this significant level here. And I think it's important to note this as well, right? The fact that we reached into this level, because this just signifies that, all right, in the overall uptrend move that we do have, we could see possible continuation, right? Depending on how price closes from this level, we could see continuations rising to the significant high. Oh wow, that's crazy. Look at that. That's wild. I also have this trade running here. I think we should see a continuation on this, which is why I just have a break even stop. But I think I'll put an alert somewhere right here. If price falls down into this level, I think at that point I'd like to take my whatever profits made and just skedaddle. Right, so price dropped all the way down here, and now we have this whole pullback situation happening. So this is where I'll say you need to take heed of this price action movement, right? So you could either minimize your risk at this point, take what little profits you do have, or just leave it as is. This is like this is like what the point what I meant, that all right, we came into this level, we understand the movement for that reason, the reasoning behind that movement, and what we should expect to see from price. And so said, so done. That's the case. Price pulled all the way back down here. So at this point, this would be like a good area to close at 1.7, maybe 2% profit, right? Possibly we could see all the way down here, right? But the thing is to note about moves like this, when you do have like huge spikes down and then price pulls back, is that there's always a chance that price may refuse on you, right? Now we are in a pretty significant level here, so the likelihood of it happening is 50-50, right? But yeah, just when you see price action like that, if it's unable to maintain that spike to the downside and initial goal, right? It's best to minimize your risk and just let price do its thing. Alright, so you have 4 minutes remaining on this candle. Alright, so we saw that spike overall, right? Let me just delete this. Remove the trends and some of these things. I also had a trade idea here for NZD which would have been a great play out. But price pulled up a little bit. I was actually looking at this zone right here for price to continue moving downwards from, but you can see price pulled up, started just ranging up here, consolidating, and then started pulling back down. I think we could get a continuation lower, but it doesn't make sense entering right now with the current price action, right? Take a look at the fall, you have all of this to worry about too. Price push down, pulling back up, whack price action movement. Something you have to get accustomed to sometimes. And let's take a look at the DXY pulling up. DXY pulling up. So if you want to do fundamental analysis, guys, one of the things that you could use here is forex live. These are analysts. These are people with years of experience analyzing the markets, market movement, and stuff like that. So something I would do if I don't have time to do the analysis for myself and stuff, I'll come in here, or if there's have like a move that just happened on the spur, they usually report those kind of moves if there's any sort of reporting to be done. So instead of you have to be searching through the fog, right? Or searching just going blind, searching, okay, why this happened, why this did this, should I take the trade here because it's a technical level or a technical advantage, or should I wait for a better opportunity, and so forth, right? So this is a good site that you could use. As you see, they do have like the headlines, and then they go into more detail. If you click onto it, and they'll show you, all right, so was the case, this is what happened, and that's and so forth. Right, so I'm just taking a look at some of these things that they're saying here. You can see Australian dollar. It was ultimately proven to be short-lived as the currency declines further again today against the dollar. AUD USD trading to a high, but now it's down nearly 100 pips from there. All right, let's take a look at that AUD USD. Traded against the high, so this was like right around here, the 20th. I dropped around 100 pips. Alright, Claire, we're watching two different charts, right? But it dropped quite significantly since then, right? Came all the way to this high here, and then it started dropping afterwards. So yeah, that's like that's a interesting indication, right, for price action right now. I think this is great for anybody that wants to come into technical analyst, technical analyzing the markets fundamentally. So you could add towards building a foundation on understanding price action movement. All right, so this is a report that we had just now. But I said there was no complaints when the yen was strengthening up until the end of last week. But now, as yen bulls are trading the towel amid the latest round of disappointment from the BOJ, we are starting to see the verbal jawbone in return. Or so Japan top currency diplomat Kanda says watching FX market with sense of urgency. Kanda says excessive FX moves are undesirable. Interesting. Right, so this is why I say you need to pay attention to the price movement and manage your risk, or you could just leave it as is. I'm leaving mine as is, whatever happens. But on this sort of pullback, right, when you do see price pullback into like, okay, we had this spike to the downside, then we had this close right up here in the 30-minute candle. Alright, one of two things could happen. We could get a wick fill of this area, right? Price coming from here, filling this entire wick. Or if we do see a break above here, price starts breaking its own high of that 30-minute candle, then we're likely going to see a continuation moving higher with volume. Alright, so right now we're actually seeing price come down a little bit. So you need to be paying attention to what this 30-minute candle does, as it would impact the price action movement, or at least what we could expect to see from price. All right. It would have been nice if we could get that close down here, though. It would have been real nice. Alright, so if you wanted, you could like take a trade right into this area, stops right above here, and like this would have been. Let me just. Alright, so stops right above here. You entered target level right here, so this would have been like a good trade setup right here. Right, this would have been alright, pretty reasonable as a trade setup on into the mini candle time frame. It's around the same thing that we already have, so it is what it is. But yeah, I think that makes sense. But in times of these like this, you just want to be on top of your risk management game, right? Because it have like possibilities that okay, price wicks back, pulls up, all of that kind of madness could happen. So you want to be in control of the amount that you are risking, especially if you're conservative. Like I said, this could have been all right. Most people I know the trade, they take 10 pips stops, 10 pips rewards and stuff like that. This was a 40 pip move, so you will have make 4 times what you usually do, right? So this was a good area you could close off for, and this would have been 2% of the actual risk that I'm risking. I'm risking, I believe, yeah, 600. It would have been 2% for me. Yeah, it would be around 2% for me on this move. I risked around 600 on a 50k account. So yeah, that would have been a 2% movement for me. But yes, we're just gonna see what price does. Again, target zone, possibility that we could pull lower with momentum if we actually, once we move past this level, once we pull away from this level, I think we should be good. Not else much to be a note. Right, we might see price action stabilizing some of these areas, like right here. Alright, we're coming pretty close into this area, the DXY, so we might just spike. But what other sort of news that we have for this week? Right, so the only thing that we have coming up is retail sales news for CAD coming at 8:30, so that's something that we could pay attention to as well. And that's about it, right? So CAD news, you'll see how that affects price action for the Canadian dollar. But other than that, should just be generally moving with the sort of price action we're currently seeing. This may also help move the DXY depending on how these numbers come out. The consensus retail sales should come out better for the CAD, but that's just speculation on what the current data that we do have. This consensus seems kind of off for the month of May. Yeah. I'm just gonna minimize my risk and take half off on this. Closed off on this position on Euro 80. I see a good few minutes to see what price does here. Not much else to really take a look at right now. I am telling you though, if this does come all the way back up here, and I'm actually gonna move this down. If price does come all the way back up here, that at that point, nah, you need to close. You need to close because that's when it becomes sort of a more like a 60% chance it could just reverse on its own candle, right? Coming back up to the close to the opening, coming back up to the opening, that just signals candle reversal probability. So if price does spike back here, I would be more on the side of actually closing off early rather than just letting it do its thing because we have a pretty tight stop loss, right? So it's either you manage your risk, being very frugal with it, you can let it do its own thing, but at that point I just feel like there's too much uncertainty. The NAS has fallen pretty. I'm not realizing how much the NAS has fallen. That's due to T and let's see USDT and SPX. USDT actually doing okay. Yeah, not really much. You can see I'm finding the price action. CHF, JPY looks okay. Alright, so I think I'm gonna end it here, guys, because alright, we already have the trade that we're looking at, the setup and everything. So it's just a matter of seeing it play out into our favor. If possible, had that 3% target all the way down here, being the high, more so the level that we're looking at. Possibility. Alright, so I think that's it for me right now, and I'll keep you guys updated as to what price actually does, and paying attention to the levels and stuff, right? So thank you very much for joining. Really do appreciate your patronage. Yeah, it's real nice every time you come up here. I'm getting into a couple of trades, discuss trade ideas, well, share my trade ideas and stuff like that. And you guys take time to actually listen to what I have to say. Alright, so thank you very much, and I'm feeling gonna end it here. Alright, so